today is we're going to be looking at, trying to give a kind of a practical overview of how to make a DITA specialization work with XMetaL. I like to use examples, so we've chosen a realistic example of a specialization of a document type. This is one that you can download for yourself and play around with, and use as a model for creating a specialization for yourself, whether or not this actual example that we'll be looking at is relevant to you. And we'll be going through the steps of setting up XMetaL step by step, from creating your specialization in the first place, putting the files in place, doing the minimal configuration of XMetaL. I'm going to touch on doing a little bit more advanced customization as well. So there'll be something for everybody, whether you're just getting started or whether you've already gotten things working. So let's look for a bit at, just for a bit of context, what DITA specializations are about. Some of you are maybe familiar with DITA, the Darwin Information Typing Architecture, and DITA is quite widely adopted as an XML standard, and it will give you a lot of features that are useful to everybody. So your basic element types, everybody uses paragraphs, almost everybody uses things like lists and tables and images. So it's got all of the ability to create a basic document within the basic DITA vocabulary. DITA also has features for content reuse. That's the main reason that people adopt DITA, is so that they can single source their content more and they can have less duplication of content. And DITA is really well supported by tools, and this broadness of DITA leads to a really wide adoption. Now, there's always a tension in choosing an XML vocabulary between choosing something that's kind of a one-size-fits-all solution and choosing something that is really meeting your particular needs as an organization. So here we're looking at a specific example where we're looking at tag names that would not be meaningful to everybody. Okay, so DITA has a lot of tag names that are meaningful to almost everybody. Things like paragraphs and titles and tables. And here we've got some tag names that are only relevant to really a small percentage of companies. But to that small percentage of companies, they are very useful because with the custom XML, custom tags, highly domain-specific tags, you can do more with it. And one of the things that you can do more with is automated formatting. So looking again closely at this example, you'll see, for example, that this heading called syntax is not actually anywhere in the text. It's automatically inserted by the publishing system. And the publishing system knows where to insert this automatic title just based on what the tag names are. You can see that there's italics that are automatically added. Again, that's added automatically by the publishing system based on the tag names, none of which are actually, say, italics. Okay? Another thing that you can do in an automated way is, get the indentation right, get the fonts consistent across all of your documents, and if you're printing, if you're delivering your content in a different language, then this automatically generated heading called syntax would actually be translated to that language as well. And the publishing system would pick up the appropriate string and put it in. So one of the things that you can get out of a rich tag set is automated formatting. There's a few other benefits of customizing your XML. One of them that I think is kind of nice is better integration with external sources of data. So not everything that ends up in a document starts out in a document. Often, for example, you can be pulling content out of a database or pulling content out of, in this particular example, source code, and parsing it and automatically generating a document, or at least parts of your document, by parsing it or pulling data out of an external system. And custom XML facilitates doing that kind of thing as well. So we've got base DITA, which gives you a wide variety of features that are useful to many people, and then we've got custom XML, which is useful for a narrow set of organizations. And the beauty of using specialization is that you're going to get both. You're going to get all of those features of base DITA, including the reuse features, including the tool support, and you're also going to have the customizability that is really valuable for a lot of organizations. Okay, so let's look at what it takes to get that custom XML working in DITA. So in any XML system, you need some kind of encoding of your XML vocabulary. In this today, we're going to be looking at probably a really common way of doing that, which is creating a specialized DTD, which is a document type definition. So the example that we're going to be looking at today is one that's been widely available for free for some time. It's called the API REST specialization. So this may or may not be directly relevant to your organization. You know, some of you work for software companies that could use API documentation. Most of you probably don't, but that's okay. The reason that we're using this particular example is just because it's a good model, even if it's not relevant to you. So I chose this, spent some time looking for a good model. I like this one because it's not a huge, new set of elements, but it's comprehensive enough to get the point across, and it's got sample content in it. So once you're set up, you can actually open some of the files that are in this specialization. And it's also got sample output, which is really useful. So even if you don't want to take the time to get the publishing system set up, you can still look at what the output is going to look like. There are some known issues that we can see in integrating this into the DITA Open Toolkit. Often plugins aren't maintained to work with all versions of the Open Toolkit that come out. So I'm just going to kind of show you what it should look like in the end. And don't worry if you can't get this integrated, but it should work integrated with the Open Toolkit, but it should work with XMetaL itself. So I'm going to now show you what this output should look like. So in the end, we're going to be looking at a sample document that ends up looking like this. Okay, let's just start here. This is the HTML output from this document. Okay, so this is a model of a specialization. So this is a model of a specialization that we're doing today. Of course, there's basically an infinite number of DITA specializations that can be built. There's a few plugins that are available that you can download for free. Plugins is, as we'll look at, is a way of packaging up a specialization. So there are specializations that you can download from other people, and you can also develop your own specialization if if you're experienced enough or technical enough, I should say, to edit DTD files. So I'd like to clear up a bit of terminology about specializations and plugins. If you're working with DITA and working with the DITA Open Toolkit, the term plugin is something that you're going to hear a lot. So basically, when you develop a specialized DTD, a specialized document type and a new vocabulary for DITA, you're going to have a set of DTD files, and a recommended practice that's been developed is to have take one folder that contains your specialized DTDs and also contains files for extending the DITA Open Toolkit so that you can publish optimally using these specialized DTDs. And we call that a plugin folder. I should mention that there are also plugins that are developed for other purposes as well, just to modify the DITA Open Toolkit in some way or other. So not all plugins contain specialized DTDs. And if you're looking at that list of plugins that have been built by other people, trying to find a good model for specialization, you're going to find a lot of stuff that doesn't contain specialized DTDs at all. Okay. So let's look at a plugin here. So this is the API ref documentation, plugin that has been downloaded. When we open this up, we'll see that most of this actually has to do with files for modifying the DITA Open Toolkit. Some of it is sample files. We all like sample files. Okay, so these are samples of content that's been written using this specialized document type. And probably the most important thing here is this DTD folder. Okay, and so this DTD folder actually contains several DTD files. So it contains the API classifier, API map, operation and package, and API ref. So there are actually several related specializations going on here. You'll also notice that even for a particular specialization, a particular DTD, there are these .mod and .ent files. And that is basically a way of breaking up a single DTD into smaller files, which is a recommended or actually a required approach to DTD writing that's required by DITA. Okay, so you've got your plugin either created by someone else that you're downloaded and are playing around with, or maybe you've created a plugin for yourself. And our first step is going to be to take those specialized DTD files and put them somewhere. So with XMetaL, you can put your specialized DTD files anywhere. I would say if you don't have a preference for where to put them, we would suggest that you put them in one of these two folders here. Okay. One thing to know about the DITA Open Toolkit is that the folder names are often not very logical. So you've got this folder called demo that contains a lot of things that are, some of them are demos, some of them are real stuff. And the plugins folder, the demo folder, as far as I can tell, they serve basically the same function. So you've got these two folders around for historical reasons. But you don't try to apply logic to the folder structure, and you're just looking for a place to put your stuff. These are good places to put them. One thing I want to emphasize is that you don't have to put your specialized DTD files in more than one place. So sometimes we see people who put their specialized files in the DITA Open Toolkit folder and then also thought that they maybe needed to put them in the XMetaL folder and maybe need to put them somewhere else as well, or multiple places in the XMetaL folder. You don't need to do that. It's not necessarily harmful, but it can be confusing for you if you're trying to troubleshoot things. So just put your specialized DTD files in one place. So we're going to go do that now. I'm going to take this API ref folder, copy it, and we'll move it over to our DITA Open Toolkit folder. Okay, and this particular plugin is supposed to be placed into that demo folder. So now I'm done with step one. I've got my DTD files in place. So the next thing we need to do is make sure that XMetaL will deliver a DITA editing experience for that new document type. And what we mean by this is that all of the features of base DITA that are normally available to base DITA documents are also available to your new specialized document type. That means that you're going to have, for example, the paragraph and the reuse menus that only appear for DITA documents. It also means that things like, if you're doing copying and pasting from a Word document into a DITA document, that's going to do that transform of Word content into DITA, that you're going to have features like automatic ID generation, and you're going to have things like smart paste when you copy and paste within a document. You want to have all of those features. There's no advantage at all in not having these features. Now, if XMetaL for some reason or other doesn't know that a document type is a DITA document type, what you're going to see is that the document's going to look like this, okay? You're going to have, the immediate sign is that you won't see a reuse menu and you won't see a paragraph menu. The insert menu is also going to be a lot shorter, okay? And you're going to see that the styling doesn't look right. It's going to have these new titles and it's just not going to look like a DITA document. So everything's going to be better if you if you get XMetaL to treat your document as being DITA. And that requires a procedure that's going to take you a few minutes. So what we need to do is tell XMetaL that this document type, identifier is a DITA document type identifier. And the way that we get that is from either a DTD file or a sample document within this file. So if I open up my specialized DTD, for example, usually in the comments somewhere there is a public identifier, and I'm going to copy this. Okay. Next, I'm going to go to XMetaL and choose a command called select specialized DITA DTD, and I'm going to browse for this DTD file. If that's the right place, and choose this DTD file. You may have noticed that there are several DTD files in that folder, so we would have to do this procedure for every DTD file. Okay, every file with the extension .dtd. If we wanted to set up, a document, to declare all of those document types as being DITA document type. So my base document type is, in most cases, topic. So I paste this public identifier, make sure that it's all there, and click OK. And then I need to restart XMetaL. Okay. So let's look now at what happens. What happens when I go through that procedure to tell XMetaL about a specialized document. So what's happened is I've made some changes to my author folder. I'm going to browse to this space here. Okay. So if you look at the XMetaL author folder, there's a folder within it called DITA and a folder in it called XAX, X-A-C-S. And in that XAX folder, a new folder has been created. And within this folder, some new files have been created. This DTD file here that you see is just pointing to that DTD file that I browsed for before. And there are some other files that have been created for creating that user experience and that customization. And in addition to creating this folder, there are also some changes that have been made to this file here and to another file. Okay. So there are three things that are affected when you use this command. Okay. There's the XAX folder that's created, and there are two files. Most of the time, you don't need to know anything about these two files, but if you do make a mistake, so if you mistype something or clicked OK too soon, for example, in the when you're doing the select specialized DTD process, these are the things that you would need to take a look at. And those are files that you can open in any text editor and just, if needed, remove or tweak a line. Okay, so what we've got now at this point is that XMetaL, next time I launch it, is going to be set up to use a custom, custom DTD. Let's look at sample document here. So here's a document that uses that custom DTD file. Okay, this document references that custom DTD file, and as you can see, that document that previously wouldn't have been editable, in XMetaL, at least not without XMetaL generating a bunch of files and giving you a bunch of prompts and probably not a paragraph in a reuse menu. So this document is now available to be edited as a DITA document. So that's step 1 and 2. So the next thing that we need to do is create a template for creating new documents. So far we can edit existing documents. The next thing that people obviously want to do is to be able to create new documents that are of that specialized document type. So in order to create a template for new documents, we're going to need to put a folder, a file into a particular place. So what I want is that when I go to the File menu and I choose New, that there's going to be an icon here, in other words, a template that will let me create new documents that are of this specialized document type. Okay, and the way that I get a template into this folder is by moving to appear in this dialog is by moving a file in here. So there's a little forum post at XML Community Forums posting that kind of gives you a bit more of a tutorial on creating templates. A template is simply an XML file waiting for WebEx to catch up on something. A template is simply an XML file which has the right document identifier at the top. Okay, so here we can see this public identifier matches that identifier that was in the DTD, and your template also has a few element tags in it, just so that people can get started with creating the document correctly. And I can also create a template which has more stuff in it. Okay. Usually I would create a template by saving a sample document in XMetaL and then opening up in Notepad to maybe remove things like element IDs that I don't want to have copied over to every document. So a template could also contain more elements and more instructional text as shown here. And I'm going to take this template, copy it, and move it to my author template folder. I'll paste it here. And the next time somebody does a file new command, you're going to see an option to create a new document with the API classifier document type. So let's look at what's going on here. We've got a new document which has a variety of elements in it that the author is likely to need, and it's also got this blue one through placeholder text in it. So one of the things that we really recommend for people is to use XMetaL, that ability of XMetaL to provide rich templates to people. So rich templates that have, a few element types that people will need just to get them going, that have this one through instructional text. The instructional text, by the way, if somebody forgets to remove it, it's not going to appear in output. So it's kind of magical that way. It only appears on the screen, so the only person who will see it is the author. So it's a really nice feature of XMetaL to kind of exploit. And there's a forum topic URL that you can take a look at here with a little bit more about creating templates. Okay? So at this point, we're almost all the way there. We can work with XMetaL with that specialized document type at this point. We can open an existing document and we can create a document. So now at this point, we're just looking at optimization. So the most bang for bucks that you're going to get in optimization is probably in customizing how a specialized element displays in XMetaL, because that's really easy to do and it makes a big difference. So by default, XMetaL will style DITA documents according to what's called the fallback styling, the class-based styling, according to what the base elements are that the specialized elements are specialized from. That's a technical way of saying that XMetaL will style things by default automatically. Okay, and it will do an okay job of it. But you'll see that there's some issues here. That for example, this word name that should be italicized isn't italicized. And you'll also see that there's no space after it, so maybe writers would put in a space when there shouldn't be a space. So it's not great. It's not as good as it could be. So I can optimize the styling in XMetaL. I can automatically insert this heading or syntax, and I can do this italicization. I can also put in a space immediately afterwards. And in order to do that, I need to go into a particular file and add some CSS code there. So again, this is going to be in this new Facts folder. Okay, that was automatically created for me, and it's going to be this file here, and I should edit this file to make the experience better for the authors. So I'm going to just take a pre-made file that I've created, got some CSS code in here, and overwrite that. And let's switch between tags on and normal views and that, so that we can apply that style sheet. So now you can see that there's slightly better styling going on. Okay. One tip that's important is to style using the class attribute. What we found is that if you just put in the element name, it often doesn't work. If you try to style based on just the element name. So you do need to style based on the class attribute, or that's for the element name. Sorry, the class attribute is going to be an attribute of the element. So XMetaL by default does not show the class attribute in the attribute inspector. It's because authors in general shouldn't be editing that attribute, so it's hidden from authors by default. But if you do need to see it, there's an option in DITA Options to turn that on. So I'll just quickly explain that now. So by default, this doesn't show up. So if I go to Tools, DITA Options, then I can select a checkbox to turn that on. Okay. Okay, so now we are really most of the way there. The next thing that you're likely to want to do is to make sure that the publishing system is customized so that it can use your specialized DTDs. So the DITA Open Toolkit is the basis for most publishing systems that people are using with DITA. And the DITA Open Toolkit will produce kind of general purpose output in multiple formats. It's really the basis of a publishing system rather than being something that people are, it's not everybody's dream software out of the box. But it does have extension points. So even though it's not your dream software out of the box, you can extend it to make it something that's more like what you're looking for. So with these extension points, you can build your plugin to add custom style sheets to each format. And you can also add, use these extension points to add different formats for generating output, and there's some really cool work that's been done with that. So you can use extension points for adding custom style sheets, and one minimal thing you need to do one way or the other is that there's a file called the catalog DITA template.xml file that's at the root of the toolkit, and you do need to add a line there to say that you've got a specialized DTD and to tell the system where that specialized DITA DTD is. Okay, so when we've got things set up, don't really have time to explain all the setup, especially with the issues with this particular plugin. When things are set up, you should be able to use the generate output command in XMetaL. What probably didn't appear on the WebEx is me invoking this generate output command. But XMetaL will automatically give you the output that you're looking for by invoking the DITA Open Toolkit. Okay, so a few things that you might want to do if you're more of a developer, or if you want to go a little bit further. One of them is that you can make customizations work with the Reusable Components feature of XMetaL. So this is going to require hand editing a particular file and making sure that this file gets into two places. It's not that complicated to do, but if you don't use the Reusable Components feature, you don't need to do it. If you do use the Reusable Components feature, then you will have to do it. And it's just adding one line to a particular file. Where you're going to get a lot of value as well, if you have a little bit of developer knowledge, and if you have the XMetaL developer product, is that you can really customize the user interface for people who are using a specialized document type. So you can go crazy with custom forms. You can create a new, you can instead of having people type things in tables or type things in paragraphs and lists, you can actually embed a form in XMetaL. I'm just going to show a quick example here. So put this kind of thing in XMetaL. And forms can contain things like radio buttons and drop-downs. You can create new custom dialog boxes. It's going to be probably worth your while to create menu items for inserting those new element types. And another thing you can do is customize what happens when people press the Enter key. So, for example, if people over here, if when you insert one of these elements, you should insert one of these elements as well. You can basically program or configure XMetaL to do that. Okay. And XMetaL also has extension points that has hooks so that you can do this kind of customization in a way that will be compatible with future versions of XMetaL. So whenever we whenever we release a new version of XMetaL, we take a lot of care in making sure that whatever customizations people have done to XMetaL, as long as they're using the extension points that we recommend, that those customizations are going to continue to work. Because people have invested a lot in customization. So in summary, we've looked at the benefits of custom XML markup. So you can have all of the nice things that come with base DITA, and all of the easy tool support, and you can also have markup that's specific to your organization or specific to your domain or the document types that you're developing. And that will make publishing easier. You'll be able to automate the layout, potentially integrate better with data sources. One thing I didn't mention is that you can, if you have a really XML-aware search engine, you can also do kind of more powerful searching find me this text, but only within this particular element type. Okay. So searching and layout are both going to be much more. You're going to have much more control over them if you're using custom markup. So in order to get started, you can try looking at a model and then maybe create your own plugin. You're going to need to do, really the most important thing is to use the select specialized data DTD command. That's going to make it possible for XMetaL to recognize your document type as being DITA. And later on, you're probably going to want to customize your templates and style sheets a bit. And if you're a more advanced user, you're going to be customizing the behavior of the editing tool as well. Okay, so that's our 37 minutes for today. Hope you enjoyed that.
Thanks very much, Dwayne. Very, very timely. Almost right on the 37 minutes, which is great for what is essentially a very complex topic. We didn't get a lot of questions, so I think you probably covered most of the things people wanted to know. The one question that has come in is, if I'm looking to do specialization and we don't have a lot of technical resources, is it worth playing around with the downloads you've shown, or should we look at getting a consultant?
I think you should probably look at getting a consultant. So the downloads are mostly to kind of see how it works, and you've been through, you've watched the webinar, so you've seen it. You've basically seen what you can do in a non-technical thing around this sort of thing. So probably you're going to want to start looking at your own requirements, and a consultant can help you articulate your requirements in a way that's translatable to a data specialization, and can develop that specialization for you.
Terrific. Cool, thank you. That was our only question. The only other one that's just come in is just kudos to the XMetaL support team for the helpful and professional webinar. It's always nice to get. Well, thanks very much, everyone. We will, of course, be sending out an invite shortly in the next couple weeks or so for our next XMetaL in 37-minute webinar. Until then, please feel free to share this with your colleagues.